This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. Nightmare Reaper is a boomer shooter aiming to combine old-school shooting with modern-like progression. Both of these mix together well to create something that has that randomness and addiction you would expect from a good roguelite, with the fast action of a classic first-person shooter. This is all part of a trend to create new first-person games set in an older style, sometimes mixing in some modern elements as well. Nightmare Reaper is very entertaining and is definitely one of the good ones. Even with some of the drawbacks, this is a shooter that I enjoyed my time with. Something I always appreciate about a game, especially as I get older and have less time, is one that just gets me right into the game. No drawn-out tutorial or story build-up sequences, especially for a game like this. When you see something like this, you don't want to see a bunch of cutscenes or even a tutorial that slowly shows you how the game is played. Nightmare Reaper does just that, throws the player into the game, and you're off to enjoy it all from the word go. The gameplay here mostly all revolves around the shooting, and it's extremely satisfying. From the sound effects to the various guns, along with the violent impact and damage that you can do. Enemies will often explode, resulting in blood and money going everywhere. Guns sound like they have some power and weight behind them, and you are going to have plenty of enemies to shoot at, from flying ones to ones that spawn extra foes, rushers, gunmen, and many others. Nightmare Reaper has an impressive amount of guns and weapons for you to use. It feels like a flood of creativity really early on with the high amount of different weapons you'll be picking up. You will see everything from various shotguns, handguns, rifles, explosives, magical spells, along with a surprising amount of fun melee weapons, from a chainsaw to even swords. Even later on, a new weapon would pop up and I would be like, I haven't even seen this yet, I wonder what it does. Along with each of these having their own alternative fire. This could mean firing off both of your barrels from your shotgun, or doing something unexpected. There's a sense of joy when trying out a new weapon, or even a different version of the one you use. So Nightmare Reaper has a sort of loot-like system with its weapons. You'll find different rarities, and each one of these will have different stat bonuses. And since the game has roguelite elements, you'll be pretty much starting each stage fresh when it comes to your weapons. You can select one level 1 weapon to keep with you at the end of a stage and then take into the next. So outside of this, you are starting each level with a blank slate. I like this for a few reasons. One is that Nightmare Reaper continually maintains that fun sense of discovery when you find a new weapon when in a new level, along with the ability to keep an old favorite with you. So when I found a legendary M1 Garand, I did not put this down. Progression-wise, the game does pull you in with an effective hook as you upgrade your skills and even expand how many guns you can carry, along with new abilities. As you defeat enemies and beat levels, you'll net yourself with gold. Gold can be used to buy various upgrades that stay with you. The interesting thing about the upgrade system is that you'll be required to play a minigame. This could be something like playing a level of Mario or Pokemon. Now, I do need to admit that I did find this kind of creative and enjoyed the break from the action. The problem is that when you get to spots in the game that can feel a bit grindy at times and unnecessarily tough, you really don't want to spend your time on these mini-games. Thankfully, the game does give you the option to turn them all off. Nightmare Reaper features random elements to each of their levels, which means that you could play the same level twice and it could be a different set of rooms and challenges. This means that pretty much every time you're going into the game, it's gonna feel fresh, so it greatly contributes to the replay value. And since there is enjoyable exploration in each of these levels, from finding extra treasures and finding better weapons, it keeps that old school charm of being on your own and giving you a space to just explore, rather than being guided the entire time. So this game is a lot of fun. The action is great with the minute-to-minute gameplay, and the progression means that you'll always have something to work towards. But as I played the game more, I found some more flaws with it. There was some small stuff like enemies getting stuck in the environment. This stuff really didn't bother me much, but it did have issues with some of the randomization and balancing with some of the areas. At times, the game can honestly feel like you cannot overcome a level because of the luck of the drops or even the rooms that you encounter. For example, I absolutely hated any of the challenge rooms that required platforming. You can jump in this game, but it doesn't feel great to do it, and oftentimes I would miss my jumps, or the jump wouldn't register and cause me to fall. When you get hit with these spots a few times, it can make this game feel unnecessarily grindy. Now I also need to mention that usually after getting through a spot like this, you're right back into that addictive flow of the action. So yes, there are spots that can feel grindy and hurt the flow of the game, but then once you overcome them, it's right back into what made this game great, and everything is all gelling together. There's also parts that feel cheap, like enemies or attacks that do not happen often, but there's some cases where some will chase you and just keep hurting you. Many of these times they hit you really fast and you don't really have any chance to react to them, which usually results in you quickly dying. Nightmare Reaper is a really fun game, but I do think the mixture of the balancing and the randomness could have been improved and refined further to keep the game in a more consistent flow, because when you hit a roadblock, it can make the game feel like a drag. Nightmare Reaper is a really good boomer shooter with addictive progression elements. Minute-to-minute wise, the game excels with quality shooting, and the modern progression systems means you have plenty of little upgrades to earn and unlock. I really appreciated here that outside of improving your stats, you even gain access to new moves like a dash that would enhance your options while in combat. I also like how the levels were set up with that old school like design. You are thrown into a space and need to figure out how to get to the exit alive, and you are not handheld there as well. This means the player gets to take that ownership and see what each of the rooms have in store for them. Along with that, there's this enjoyable sense of discovery. Now when this game is within its satisfying flow, it's hard to put down, but when you come to a level that no matter how many times you try it in its different forms, and it can feel really tough to beat. These roadblocks can really hurt your momentum to keep going. Much of this comes down to the randomness and the balancing that's going on with it. I do think the developers have something great here by always making the areas feel fresh and new, but they can also feel needlessly frustrating when some of the more grindy parts pop up. Plus, first-person platforming is usually something I do not enjoy, and while it doesn't happen often in Nightmare Reaper, whenever it does, I really don't like it, especially those trap rooms. Because in those few cases, when you miss a jump, that could also mean that you need to restart the level. The developers deserve a lot of praise, even with some of the flaws. This is an underrated first-person shooter that I think most people will enjoy, and I recommend it. Have you played Nightmare Reaper? If so, where does this rank among the other boomer shooters you have played? Let me know all of this in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.